Indonesia. Land of smoking volcanoes. Land of crystal clear beaches. Land of forests and rare animals. Terraced rice fields, extending like staircases toward the sky. A cloud of smoke rising from a silent volcano. Ritual swings, grazing the clouds above sacred jungles. Welcome to Indonesia. Welcome to the world's largest archipelago. This is a place where the fire of the earth meets the water of the sea, where active volcanoes watch over primordial forests, where hundreds of languages intertwine in a unique cultural blend. But let's start from the beginning. Indonesia consists of more than 17,000 islands, of which only 6,000 are inhabited, stretching along the equator like a string of pearls. It's a small but vast territory representing the world's largest archipelago, where seasons simply alternate between rain and drought, dictating the rhythm of life. This country is a true natural sanctuary, hosting 10% of the planet's plant species, 12% of mammals, and 17% of known birds. It's also home to the orangutan, the great reddish-furred primate that observes the world with almost human eyes, and the legendary Komodo dragon, the last descendant of dinosaurs that still reigns serenely on its island. Indonesia, furthermore, is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is a belt of volcanoes that surrounds the ocean, like an incandescent chain. Indeed, with 150 active volcanoes, it's the country with the highest number of mountains of fire in the world, giants now in half slumber that occasionally awaken to remind humans of the primordial force of Earth. But the true wealth of this land lies in its cultural mosaic. In this vast archipelago, over 700 languages are spoken, each guardian of unique knowledge and traditions. Among these, we remember the burial rituals of the Toraja in Sulawesi, where the deceased are honored with elaborate ceremonies that can last for days. Or the Balinese dances, with hypnotic movements that tell ancient legends. Or even the tribal masks of Papua, with carved faces that connect the visible world with that of spirits. Each island, each ethnicity, has its own customs and beliefs, which form a cultural kaleidoscope of rare complexity. And it's precisely in this context that Islam is practiced by 87% of the population, coexisting peacefully with significant Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist minorities, in an extraordinary example of religious and cultural coexistence. And then there is batik, the ancient art of textile decoration, recognized by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage, which visually represents this harmony of differences with its intricate patterns that tell stories of a past that continues to live in the present. Speaking instead of Jakarta, the bustling capital, it should be noted that it is slowly sinking into the ocean under the weight of its own development. And for this very reason, the government has planned to relocate it in the coming years. Finally, this country has a very special and deep relationship with rice fields, which dot its landscape. Indeed, they are not just simple cultivated fields, but the very soul of a nation, where each grain tells stories of tradition, spirituality, and harmony with nature, which for millennia has nourished the body and spirit of a people. Indonesia, therefore, is much more than a simple archipelago. It's a microcosm of wonders, a place that continues to weave its story between fire and water, tradition and innovation, diversity and unity. But now let's discover its most incredible and iconic places. Bali. Known as the Island of the Gods, it is a place where nature, culture, and spirituality intertwine. The terraced rice fields carved into the inland hills are still cultivated with community irrigation systems called subak, which have been recognized as UNESCO heritage. The coasts, on the other hand, range from black volcanic beaches to white coral sand, with waves that attract surfers from all over the world. In the inland villages, such as Ubud, Hindu temples alternate with artisan markets and ritual dances, which mark daily life. The active volcanoes Agung and Batur dominate the horizon, offering trekking routes at sunrise. Bali is also rich in tropical forests and waterfalls, which can only be reached on foot. An important aspect is its strong cultural identity, with more than 10,000 temples that regulate religious ceremonies throughout the year. Borobudur Temple. Hidden among the plains of Java Island, which is the most populated in Indonesia, is the Borobudur Temple complex, a monument that stands as one of the most imposing witnesses of Buddhism ever built by man. The structure, dating back to the 9th century, develops in terraces which represent not just a physical ascent, but narrate the path of the soul toward enlightenment. Walking among the stone corridors, one finds oneself surrounded by sculptures that tell stories, and each bas-relief functions as a page of a book, where the teachings of Buddha take form, thus transforming the entire temple into a visual text of meditation and spiritual guidance. Today, Borobudur doesn't just welcome faithful seeking spiritual connection, quite the contrary. The temple attracts scholars and travelers from every corner of the planet, all in search of this testimony of artistic mastery and devotion that flourished in the Indonesian islands before the arrival of Islam, offering a glimpse into technical and spiritual capabilities that still challenge our understanding. Raja Ampat. In the most remote corner of the Indonesian archipelago, Raja Ampat hides, an untouched treasure of Western Papua that few know, but that absolutely deserves to be discovered. This aquatic sanctuary comprises over 1,500 islands, islets, and shallow seabeds, and not by chance scientists identify it as the beating heart of marine biodiversity on the planet. The waters of Raja Ampat indeed teem with life in a way that defies any comparison. Under the surface, coral reefs extend as far as the eye can see, transforming into underwater cities, where thousands of tropical fish, mollusks, and creatures that aren't seen in any other place on Earth find refuge. From above, moreover, the spectacle is no less impressive. The rock formations emerge from the ocean like green giants, in a sea that changes color with the hours of the day. Komodo National Park. In the Indonesian archipelago of the Lesser Sunda Islands lies Komodo National Park, the only place in the world where Komodo dragons still hunt as they have done for millions of years, dominating the territory as the most lethal reptiles on the planet. But this park hides much more than these prehistoric predators. Here, nature has created a world where volcanoes have forged impossible landscapes, with tropical forests that pulse with life, untouched beaches that know no human footprint, and a marine universe that few have yet explored. Life explodes in disarming forms, with species that find refuge both on land and in the deep waters that surround these remote islands. It's for this reason that the park represents one of the last intact natural sanctuaries on our planet. Mount Bromo. In the heart of East Java, hidden inside the enormous caldera of Tengger, stands Mount Bromo, a volcano that has redefined the landscape of Indonesia and continues to do so even today. This giant never sleeps, with its breath of smoke and steam constantly rising toward the sky, a powerful reminder that under our feet there are primordial forces that continue to shape the earth. Dawn here is not just a moment of the day, but a spectacle that attracts people from every corner of the world. When the first light appears on the horizon, something magical happens. The sun's rays completely transform what surrounds them, and the expanse of volcanic ash lights up, while the clouds of gas coming out of the crater capture the light and create plays of color. For this reason, hundreds of people wake up in the heart of the night and climb in almost total darkness the volcano until reaching strategic viewpoints. Gili Islands. Three tiny jewels sprout from the Sea of Lombok, as if nature had decided to create its perfect experiment of island life. The Gili Islands don't just represent a simple tourist destination. Quite the contrary, here time works differently. There are no cars or motorcycles breaking the tranquility, and transportation is reduced to bicycles crossing sandy paths or horse-drawn carriages that remind of a past era. Gili Trawangan, the largest of the three islands, usually pulses with energy when the sun sets, with beach bars that come alive and music that mixes with the sound of waves. Gili Meno, instead, tells a completely different story. On the smallest island indeed, couples walk hand in hand on beaches where they are often the only human presences for kilometers. And then there is Gili Air, which perhaps finds the perfect balance between its neighbors, offering corners of absolute peace, but also opportunities to socialize and participate in organized activities. Nusa Penida. An island that emerges from the waters off Bali, where nature still reigns unchallenged. Nusa Penida immediately strikes for its contrasting landscapes, with rocky walls that precipitate drastically towards seas of a deep blue, creating panoramic views that seem to come out of a postcard. Underwater, a pulsating universe of life is revealed, with clear waters that hide forests of corals, with countless marine species that find here their natural habitat. The most photographed point of the island is without doubt Kelimutu Beach, better known as T-Rex Bay. In this place, an imposing rock formation stands against the horizon, with a shape that unmistakably recalls that of a prehistoric predator, creating a unique and almost idyllic scenario. Yogyakarta. In the heart of Java, Yogyakarta marks its existence following the ancestral beat of Javanese culture. This royal city, where a sultan still maintains his government, represents a perfect balance between secular customs and contemporary development. Walking along the bustling streets of Malioboro becomes a complete sensory experience, where the intense aromas of satay blend with the hypnotic melodies of gamelan, while in the workshops of local artisans, vibrant colored batiks and traditional masks tell stories spanning centuries. Yogyakarta, however, is not just a vibrant cultural center, but also a starting point toward extraordinary archaeological treasures. A short distance from the city, in fact, there is the imposing Borobudur complex that emerges from the vegetation, or there are the towers of the Hindu temple of Prambanan, bearing witness to a remote era when deities and sovereigns were considered equals. Lombok. Often relegated to the role of younger sister of Bali, Lombok emerges with a distinctive personality that needs no comparisons. The island presents itself as a territory of contrasts, where the still intact beaches, the waterfalls hidden in the vegetation, and the imposing presence of the Rinjani volcano dominate the landscape, with its summit that offers breathtaking panoramas on the entire archipelago. Moving toward the heart of the island, tourists discover a natural mosaic composed of rice fields that follow the contours of the slopes, dense tropical forests, and gentle hills that follow one another to the horizon, creating scenes of extraordinary beauty and ideal routes for explorations on foot in environments that have remained intact. Furthermore, the presence of the Sasak people, with their settlements built according to traditional methods, and their textile creations with vivid patterns, infuses the place with a sense of cultural genuineness. Ubud. It's the cultural heart of Bali, a place that is surrounded by a landscape where nature expresses itself in forms of rare power and beauty. The city is wrapped by endless expanses of terraced rice fields that stretch like a green sea of gentle curves until touching the horizon. There are also deep gorges created over time by the incessant force of rivers that flow impetuously and offer glimpses that capture attention. All around instead, lush tropical forests envelop the city in a green embrace, becoming home to countless plant and animal species. Among the dense vegetation, ancient places of worship and sanctuaries also hide, that emerge here and there in the landscape, speaking silently of the deep spiritual connection that has always characterized this land. Ijen Volcano. The Ijen Volcano distinguishes itself for its immense acid lake that figures among the largest on the planet, and for a phenomenon that defies reality. Smell of sulfur and blue flames that dance in the night when sulfurous gas ignites on contact with air. These tongues of fire that shine in the darkness, together with the turquoise expanse of the lake, surrounded by dark volcanic walls, compose a scene that doesn't seem to belong to planet Earth. Every day, moreover, local miners face the ascent and descent of the volcano in a totally hostile environment, collecting blocks of sulfur with bare hands, in a territory that highlights the continuous confrontation between human beings and the powerful manifestations of nature. Tana Toraja. Hidden among the green mountains of Sulawesi, Tana Toraja is a mystical world where life and death merge in a unique balance. Here, the traditional Tongkonan houses, with their boat-shaped roofs pointed toward the sky, dot the landscape, witnesses of an ancient culture. But it's in funeral ceremonies that Toraja culture reveals its deepest essence. These rituals, indeed, which extend for days or sometimes weeks, are not moments of mourning, but rather celebrations of the life lived. For the Toraja, death represents only a passage, and the deceased are considered sick until they can receive the honors provided by tradition. Bukit Lawang. Hidden in the dense jungle of Sumatra, Bukit Lawang emerges as a small village that serves as a portal to the wonders of Gunung Leuser National Park. Recognized worldwide for its center dedicated to the rehabilitation of orangutans, this place offers travelers the unique opportunity to observe these intelligent primates as they move freely in their natural environment. Furthermore, during excursions through the dense rainforests, tourists not only meet orangutans, but can also spot gibbons moving among the branches, or groups of macaques wandering restlessly, and an extraordinary variety of brightly colored birds that populate the canopies of trees. And then there are the waters of the Bohorak River that flow placidly through the center of the village, that create perfect spaces for moments of tranquility and offer a natural refreshment after long walks in the hot humidity of the jungle. Wakatobi National Park. In the heart of the Coral Triangle, considered the world epicenter of marine biodiversity, Wakatobi emerges as a sanctuary still little known. This remote archipelago, composed of 4 main islands, guards in its waters a concentration of marine life at the limits of imagination. Here, entire forests of soft coral stretch out to the horizon, while experienced divers can venture along impressive drop-offs, formations where the seabed suddenly plunges into unexplored depths. Returning to the surface instead, expanses of white sand invite to moments of pure tranquility, while in the villages inhabited by the Baijo people, known as the nomads of the sea, a way of life shaped by generations of coexistence with the ocean is revealed. Prambanan. It towers majestically in the plain of central Java and stands as a monument to Hindu architectural genius. This vast temple complex from the 9th century, with its sharp towers that point toward the firmament, narrates through stone the epic battles between divine and demonic forces. The central sanctuary, consecrated to the deity Shiva, is surrounded by minor temples, arranged according to a scheme that physically represents the Hindu conception of the universe. When the sun begins to set, the grazing rays transform the ancient stone into golden structures, creating a visual spectacle that captures anyone present. On full moon evenings, moreover, the archaeological complex becomes the stage for performances of the Ramayana Ballet, where choreographic movements, traditional melodies, and plays of flames intertwine, to bring to life the immortal epic poem. Flores Island. It's a mosaic of idyllic landscapes and ancestral cultures that extends in the Indonesian archipelago. The island owes its name to the rich flowering vegetation that covers its territory, but its fame extends well beyond this characteristic. In fact, the volcanic lakes of Kelimutu are its most extraordinary natural treasure, with waters that shift in color in ways that seem almost inexplicable. Then there are the Wae Rebo communities, where distinctive cone-shaped houses rise against the landscape. And again, the pink sand shores of Padar, lapped by crystal-clear waters, while in the surrounding lands roam the legendary Komodo dragons, which we have already mentioned earlier. Mentawai Islands. Off the western coast of Sumatra, the Mentawai emerge from the ocean as a sanctuary both for surfers and for those seeking authentic contact with nature. This isolated archipelago is characterized by waves that form with geometric precision, attracting many surf enthusiasts. But what these islands offer goes well beyond sporting opportunities, with vast expanses of primordial rainforest, shores of white sand still devoid of human footprints, and a local culture that resists homologation. The Mentawai people indeed continue to live according to many of their ancestral customs, preserving traditions such as the art of complex tattoos and maintaining a deep and symbiotic bond with the forest ecosystem. Besaki. Perched on the slopes of Mount Agung, Besaki stands as the most imposing and venerated Hindu religious complex of the entire island of Bali. Locally known as the Mother Temple, this vast ensemble of sacred structures includes more than 80 temples and shrines that form a spiritual labyrinth. Ancient stairs carved into stone guide visitors through a succession of courtyards and terrace levels, each consecrated to the worship of a specific deity of the Hindu pantheon. During periods dedicated to ritual celebrations, the temple complex transforms and becomes populated by devotees in their ceremonial clothes and enveloped by the hypnotic melodies of gamelan. Tumpak Sewu. One of the most extraordinary aquatic phenomena of the entire Indonesian archipelago. Known by locals as the stepped waterfall, this natural formation gives a visual spectacle that immediately captures attention, with masses of water that precipitate from every direction, forming an almost perfect circle on a vast natural amphitheater of moss-covered rocks. The territory that embraces the waterfall teems with life, with tropical vegetation that grows lushly, offering an ideal habitat for countless species of plants and animals. Those who decide to explore this place have the opportunity to immerse themselves in an environment where nature still reigns supreme, following paths that wind through the jungle until reaching panoramic points from which to admire the majesty of the waterfall with truly exciting perspectives. Lake Toba. Born from an apocalyptic event, when a supervolcano erupted 70,000 years ago, Lake Toba is an expanse of fresh water that goes beyond what can be seen. This vast lake lies within a crater enclosing the island of Samosir, and holds the world record as the largest of its kind, with a size comparable to that of Singapore. The surface of the lake often remains calm and perfectly reflects the mountain profiles that surround it, giving life to incredibly magical scenarios. In the villages scattered throughout Samosir, moreover, customs of remote times continue to live. That's why Lake Toba doesn't represent a simple natural phenomenon, but also a sacred place for local culture, where environment and traditions intertwine. Wae Rebo Village. Hidden among the mountains of Flores, this traditional village houses only 7 main conical houses called baruniang. These 5-story structures indeed are built entirely from bamboo and straw, following techniques passed down through generations. The Manggarai community, which lives here, maintains an ancestral lifestyle, cultivating coffee and producing traditional textiles. The village functions like one large extended family, where decisions are made collectively and visitors are welcomed into communal houses. To reach the village furthermore, you need 3 hours of trekking through the rainforest. UNESCO has recognized it as cultural heritage. Kelimutu Volcano. a volcano that has earned worldwide fame not for its eruptions, but for a phenomenon that defies the predictability of nature. Its 3 craters host lakes whose waters constantly change color, like a living palette, transforming based on chemical reactions and mineral activity that occurs in the volcanic depths. The chromatic spectrum that these lakes present ranges from intense cobalt blue to emerald green, to shades of deep red like blood, making each visit a completely different experience from the previous one. It's nestled on the mountainous lands of Flores Island and is wrapped in a veil of local mysticism with ancient tales that describe these lakes as dwellings of ancestral souls. Tirta Gangga. Located in the eastern region of Bali, it reveals itself as an intricate aquatic network that seems suspended between reality and fantasy. This ancient royal complex, whose name translates as Water of the Ganges, comprises an elaborate system of basins, water jets, and green areas that grow luxuriantly. Masterfully sculpted figures and stone crossings rise above pools populated by brightly colored koi carp, generating an environment where an almost hypnotic calm reigns. Tourists can explore the site walking on stone paths that wind through the waters, offering always new perspectives at every angle. Furthermore, with the natural frame created by terraced rice fields and the imposing shape of Mount Agung that dominates the horizon, this space transcends the concept of simple ornamental garden. Kintamani. A mountainous plateau overlooking Mount Batur and its namesake lake, lying as if cradled within the ancient volcanic caldera. The lake, formed thousands of years ago during a catastrophic eruption, now shines like a mirror under the smoking cone of the still active volcano. The people of the surrounding villages have transformed the slopes into terraces where they grow coffee, which absorbs the volcanic minerals and has a different flavor. At dawn, fishermen push their canoes into the tranquil waters, while on the edge of the caldera, visitors immerse themselves in natural hot springs. Banda Islands. Hidden in the Banda Sea, these remote islands once occupied the neuralgic center of the global spice trade. The intense aromas of nutmeg and cloves continue to permeate the air, while the fortifications built by Dutch colonizers silently narrate the stories of conquests and commercial exchanges that here have changed the course of history. The crystal-clear waters surrounding the archipelago also hold some of the most extraordinary dive sites in all of Indonesia. The shores of pure white sand, on the other hand, offer a haven of peace, while the presence of the active volcano, Gunung Api, adds a distinctive element to the landscape. Belitung Island. An island that hides a secret and that reveals itself only during low tide, when the sea retreats and unveils a path of granite boulders that seems to lead toward infinity. These giants of stone, smoothed by time and waves, create a surreal landscape. The rock formations rise from the sand like natural sculptures, surrounded by waters so transparent that boats seem to float in the air, like those of local fishermen who pass through here following routes handed down from generation to generation. Today, the fame of the island has also increased after a film captured the magic of these places, but vast areas remain still intact and wild. Semarang. Semarang encompasses two cities in one. The old area, with Dutch colonial buildings slowly deteriorating in the tropical humidity, and the modern metropolis, growing upward with skyscrapers reflecting the sun. The ancient streets of the historic center, paved with colonial stone, intertwine with each other, forming a labyrinth of alleys with facades of faded colors that tell centuries of history. Finally, in the heart of the city stands the majestic Masjid Agung Mosque, whose minaret dominates the skyline, calling the faithful to prayer 5 times a day with its melodious call. Tanah Lot Temple. On a black volcanic rock, caressed by Indian Ocean waves, rises a temple that for 5 centuries has defied Bali's tides. Tanah Lot emerges from waters like a mystical vision, isolated from mainland by the sea's eternal rhythm. Local tradition tells of a holy man who, after spending a night on the rock, built the sanctuary under protection of sacred sea serpents, who are said to still watch over the temple today. While the sun sets tinting waters with golden reflections, the temple's silhouette stands against the horizon, like a portal between earthly and divine worlds. Concluding this visual journey through Indonesia, we have moved from the charm of its tropical islands and majestic volcanoes to the most famous icons of its ancient and modern cities, discovering together not only places, but also traditions and cultures that make every corner of this archipelago unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the extraordinary diversity of this nation.